Welcome to the Heartfelt Homes Real Estate Show, where we cover all things related to Greater Boston real estate investing. Today's guest is Todor Ialamov, a local real estate investor and agent with Keller Williams based in the Merrimack Valley. Todor and I met about a year ago at a local real estate meetup where he was giving a presentation related to some of the recent projects he had going on. And we've stayed in touch ever since. He's a great guy. He's a really, really good agent. And he's been able to grow his business considerably this year. He bought his first, as you'll hear in the episode, he bought his first property in Chelsea, which was a 2-bedroom condo that he was house hacking. And that was just about 10 years ago. And just in the last 3 years alone, he's been able to grow his business to over 50 units and has another 14-unit building in the works. So he's really, his story, and I think you'll tell from the conversation, his story is all about how he's been able to get started, get his business off the ground, and then use the profits and proceeds and cash flow from those early projects and been able to roll those into projects that have helped him grow, and really been able to do that in a relatively short period of time. We were trying to line this interview up earlier in the summer, but with schedules and COVID, and we just didn't make it happen. But we were excited to kind of finally get together for a conversation today before the year was over. I think this will be a good way to cap the year, and in what was a very interesting time and year for real estate investing and for everybody else. So I hope you enjoy the conversation. We really enjoyed talking with Todor today. And without further ado, we'll introduce him. Thanks for watching. Hey Todor, welcome to the show. It's good to have you on finally. It's been this has been in the works for some time. I think we were trying to set this up for when we first started the podcast. Early this year, I think we were trading some emails, and we've slowed down on the podcast a little bit, and the schedules have gotten away from us. But finally, here we are at the end of the year. And able to get you on. So it's great to have you. Welcome on.
Thanks for having me, Todd. It's a pleasure doing this with you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think, you and I, if memory serves me right, you and I met for the first time last fall at one of the local meetups in Merrimack Valley.
Yeah.
And you were actually presenting on a couple topics there, I think some of which we're going to get into today. But you were one of the first kind of local investors that I met when I started going to the meetups, and I've always found our conversations and the knowledge you've been able to share really valuable. And I appreciate you taking the time to kind of pay it forward to the folks that are following in your footsteps.
Of course, my pleasure, Todd. It's all mutual. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, it's been actually exactly a year. I remember the first time I went to that meetup was in November, and to witness the growth of so many people there, including yourself, in the real estate business. It's amazing. It's unbelievable. I think when people get together and talk about what we love, which is in this case real estate, we kind of push each other, feed up each other, and the results much easier.
Yeah, it's definitely the accountability factor. That's for sure. But I guess back in November, we would have probably never guessed how challenging this year would have been with COVID. Definitely couldn't have foreseen that. But hopefully with everything that's the vaccines that are coming and all that, we'll be able to turn the corner and get back to normalcy and in-person meetups. I think there's a lot of people are missing the in-person meetups.
I'm one of them. It's just, I mean, Zoom is great. I guess it's for a lot of people, but when work with clients and with partners and everything, to be in the in-person meetups is just so much better and more valuable. But it is what it is. We'll make the best out of it.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. All right, so we're gonna get into today. I want to start with hearing a little bit about your background, either prior to real estate or ultimately your path kind of into real estate, how you got involved, and in what capacity you've gotten into real estate investing.
Well, I immigrated to America in 1997. I started working immediately. I remember I came on Friday. I think on Monday I had a job and I started working. I've always, I worked for in a restaurant where the owner was Greek and he was investing in real estate. So I've seen the power of real estate on the early days. And back in 2004, actually, I had decided to move back to Bulgaria for a few years. And I bought a condo there in the capital, which is Sofia. I bought a condo which consisted a main floor and then another unit. It's kind of a basement, but it was all above ground. But then I decided to stay. So we separated the two units. I remember I bought it for 105,000 euros in 2004. And in the end of 2005, we separated it and we sold the main floor for 2015, 1,000 euros. So I made like 8,000 euros and I had a small studio apartment, a small one bedroom for free. So this is when I, said, wow, this is sweet. And then 2006, I bought my first condo here in Chelsea on the waterfront. I discovered what house hacking is. For some of the people that, I'm sure most people know, but it's when you buy, house hacking is when you buy let's say, if it's a two-family, you can live in one unit and rent the other one, and this helps you with your mortgage, so we can almost live for free. In my case, it was a two-bedroom condo. I lived in one bedroom. I rented the other one. So again, I think my mortgage was like 1,500. I was charged. It was almost. I lived for. I think I was paying like 300-400 at the end of the month. So then I started my own business and I worked. I had a delivery service company. We had a website where people would order online, very similar to what GrabHub is right now. And in 2014. I sold my shares in the company. This when Uber announced Uber Eats, I said, okay, to start thinking out of this line of business. And so I had money to put down for down payment. I wanted to start investing in Chelsea again. Back in 2014, I think like a three-family, well-fixed homes was selling for less than 500,000. So I had the money to put for down payment for, to buy a few of these. I had a perfect credit score, but I didn't even think that now that I don't owe the business, I don't have any income to for the banks to lend me money. So I didn't know. I was looking for a way to go around it, and I bought an existing vending business just so I can show the income. I hated it. I hated running it, but again, I built it. I think I bought it for 100,000 in a year and a half. I brought it up to I sold it for 175,000. So I really developed it, sold it. And in the meantime, I had found out about that actually partnerships in real estate are much better than in a business. It's not that much. The biggest problem with partnerships in a business, I think, is there's always one partner feels that he's doing more work than the other and he deserves better, and the other one is not hustling as much. So that creates these problems. In real estate, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, especially if you put the same amount of money in a deal, then you hire a property management company, and there's no really place where you can be upset about the other person or to create any type of disagreement. So we started. So I found a partner, and we started buying real estate.
Nice. Wow. So you skipped over like 2008 to 2012. So those were dark years in real estate.
2008 to 2014, actually. Well, this is when I was working in my business, the delivery service company. We started with $20,000. do the website, had a couple of restaurants, and then at the end, we were working with 450 restaurants. We had 70 employees. I was making a lot of money. We're making, I think the last, our revenue the last year was close to $5 million.
Wow.
So we were making, it was a huge operation, but I was so into, not the lifestyle, but my mindset was completely different at this point. I was seeing the money. I said, "Wow, it's so easy to make money." At this point, I was too busy of thinking of, okay, well, maybe I should. It's a good time to invest some of this money because if Uber Eats announced, let's if Uber Eats come or another company or when they came later, I pretty much, I can't compete with these guys. So, this year I was busy making money and spending them.
No, it sounds like you timed everything perfectly. So you were accumulating money to invest during the housing crisis, and then you put it to work shortly after. So that's awesome. What type of, so you mentioned the stuff you were doing in Bulgaria that kind of got you really interested.
It showed me the power of real estate. Yeah.
And every investor has that moment, right? Every investor has that light bulb moment, and that sounds like it was yours. Then you came back to the United States. You bought the condo in Chelsea, and then you saw some of the multifamilies in Chelsea because you wanted to stay there. So like, where did things go from there? So have you stayed kind of in the multifamily space down north of Boston, or has it expanded at all?
Yeah, so when I bought my condo in Chelsea, it was on the top of the market. It was 2000, maybe mid 2006 when the market was really blooming, and they were giving mortgages just like for nothing.
Yeah.
I was still working in a restaurant that I think I was showing like $12,000 on my. I was making more, but I was showing like $12,000 on my W-2. And they gave me a loan for $265,000 with zero down payment.
Yeah.
But then after that, and because of this easy loans, the market started crashing, and it turned into a huge liability for me because the people on the first and second floor, they couldn't sell it for half of it, and they both foreclosed. And it was liability, but then things are starting to get better and better, and that taught me another very important lesson about real estate. It's a very forgiving business, because even if you make a mistake, and it's not a mistake, but even if you buy on top market and then it's followed by a crash, if you hold enough, if you hold on to it for a few years, things go back to normal, and actually again from a liability becomes a great asset.
I think on that note, again, it's not bulletproof, but I think to your point about being a forgiving industry, I think you're right, and I think most of the audience and most of the folks that you and I talk to, we're buying, most of the time income producing assets. And I think it's very different to be buying an asset towards the top of the market that is maybe a single family residential home that if it depreciates, you could very well find yourself upside down if you're putting down 0 or 5, a low down payment. Whereas, if you're buying an income producing asset, in some cases, you almost don't care what the underlying value of the asset is, so long as the cash flow is coming in. That's not not blanket statement, but in many cases that can be the case. I think
of course it is, and that's what we. I'm an agent also. I work with Keller Williams, and I work mostly with investors, and that's what I always try to point to them, is that it's as long as there's cash flow, and there's a positive cash flow, even if there's a crisis tomorrow, people still need places to live, and it's easier to survive. It's easiest to survive.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, and it's I think it's great that you're kind of educating your. I think that's what makes a quality investor-friendly agent is somebody who can take the time to have that discussion with their clients and really help them understand, like, ultimately they need to make the decision, but being armed with the knowledge to say, like, how if you feel like this is a good area to buy a property, it's in a good location, you're familiar with it, you think that the rental market will remain strong, you think about a property purchase very differently than if you were going to live there and it's a single family home.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah, no doubt. Yeah,
no doubt. That's awesome.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you. Being an agent and an investor, I've never thought I can be a good salesman. I never liked sales, but I'm so in love with the product of owning real estate, and I so much believe in it that for me it's I don't know if a duty is a good word, but I'm always tempted to be an educator first before an agent, because I really believe in the power of owning real estate. In the long term, I know there's a quote, I forgot who said it. Owning real estate is the easiest way an everyday person can make it big, can become a millionaire if you want to.
Yeah.
There's no easier way. So I really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a good point, and I think your point about this is a business you're in for yourself too, and you're an investor first, and we share this mindset, right? Like,
yeah.
I love working with my clients because I can talk to them as a peer investor, and we can talk about the pros and cons of a particular property very much like you and I would, right? Like peer investors, hey, let me bounce this off you. Let me bounce it. Have you thought about it this way? Have you thought about? I'm not sitting there thinking about how do I get these folks to buy a house because I need to put, I need the income to come in to pay for my car, right? Like that,
exactly.
And I think having the conversation and having our licenses and being agents because it's what we love and we're in the space already and we can help people with their goals, I think I don't know, I think it's a differentiator, and I'm glad to hear you share that.
That's exactly what makes you a good agent, Todd, is because you are not, you don't chase that commission. For you and for me, it's I love to go. I don't care. I learn something every time I see a house, and I need another agent. If I work with a buyer, I go and I see, even if I know that they're not going to like this house, but I still will go and see it. And the least that can happen is you meet another agent that is in the same field, and there's another connection, and I've met so many great agents like yourself in a meetup or in a showing, and it's never it never feels like a waste of time.
Yeah, and I think that's a good segue into I know in your 10 or 15 years of real estate investing, and you mentioned this earlier on in the discussion, how you can accomplish more with other people. I think this is a good segue to talking about partnerships, right? And I'd love to hear your stance on what type of partnerships that are attractive to you, how you think partnerships can help people accelerate either their entry or their growth in real estate investing. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's as I mentioned before, it's a little different than in let's say if you open a restaurant or a coffee shop or retail store or anything else. It's just it's different in a way, but it's also there's a lot of common things. It's just when you look for a partner, it needs to just make sense for both of them. For example, most of my partnerships with one person who I grew up with, and he lives and works in New York. He's into financials. He makes good money. He has a good credit score. He wants to invest in real estate, but he doesn't have the time to go and look for this deal or analyze the deal or look for the best possible market or all kinds. He just needs to obviously we discussed everything, but the way it is just I pretty much find a deal. I say hey, take a look at this. I think we can make this much money. We can improve this and gain this equity, and then if we agree on it, we go ahead and purchase it. But one thing that is very important is you need to have an exit strategy as well. I mean, when you define the terms and the initial the partnership, a lot of people forget that the exit is just as important. Because let's say 3-4 years from now, let's say me and you Todd buy a house together and everything is great, but then I go through some financial hardship, or I want to move back to Bulgaria, and say, okay, we need to sell this, but you don't want to sell it, so you need to have this in writing, and prior to purchase something, what's going to happen in 5 years, or let's say in 5 years, we'll go back and we will look into it, how, if you want to get out, or if I want to get out, how we're going to do it. And as long as everything is upfront and is discussed and agreed on, and it's in a written form, it makes it so much, makes the risk a lot smaller, and it's much easier to operate and communicate.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I think you touched right on the front side of that explanation. I think you touched upon something that's really important, which is, partnerships are. It's funny because a lot of people we talk to, wonder like, why would people partner on real estate deals if we all are trying to do the same thing? And you hit the nail on the head, which is, just because you are thinking about real estate investing one way, just because you might have the time to go analyze deals or walk properties or manage construction projects or renovations, like not everybody does. And there's plenty of folks that, like in your earlier example, may not have income to show, or may not have a 2-year tax history, and so they can't get a loan, right? So there might be people that are high income earners who do have the W-2 income, but don't have the time to real estate invest, but they have the interest in real estate investing. And so I think my belief is the best partnerships are the ones where each person, whether it's 2 or 3 or 4 people, brings something unique to the table that make the group more powerful than any one person on their own. You just gave a really good explanation, but is that how you think about it as well?
That's definitely one of the best forms of partnership, but it could be as simple as me and you find the deal, and we are both agents. We probably know the same about the market. We just come and just say, you have some extra cash to invest, and I do some, and we can do it. It doesn't have to always be, but you're right. The best way is when people complete each other in a way. Like, and in my partnership, another thing that works very well for us is I don't like dealing with the banks, with the lenders. I don't know. I know enough, but I don't enjoy it. I don't like. And my partner, he works in banks, and he doesn't mind making the phone calls. He knows how to be creative, and that also helps a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, sometimes it's just economies of scale, right? It's just bringing people together to do, to buy something bigger maybe, or work on a project that you can't do by yourself.
And I think for first time investors or buyers, everybody has this, people are nervous, it's a lot of money. I don't know about this business, they're afraid to make this first big step. When your friend or co-worker or whatever, he shares the same vision, it's much easier to just to make this step. You share the risk, and you become a little braver.
Nice. So besides, do you have any other, before we move on to the next topic, you've talked about partnerships, and you talked about outlining kind of an exit strategy and all the details of the partnership kind of upfront. Are there any other suggestions you would have for somebody who is thinking about partnering on a real estate deal that you would want to make a suggestion to?
I'm not, I can't think of anything on top of my head. It's just, communication is key. Just don't hide things, whatever your concern is. If you have a concern about something, it's better say it up front.
Yeah.
It's like kind of dating and marriage. You need to communicate. You in with this person and this together. So you need to be open about it. If you have concerns, like I said, you just need to lay it out. Don't keep things inside. If you don't know about something, don't pretend you do. You just look for a third person advice maybe, this will work out.
Awesome. No, I think good communication, good news, bad news, good communication overall goes a long way. So
yeah, usually in most of the times there's one of the partners wants it a little more than the other one, and let's say if I want something and my partner is not completely sold on it, make sure. I mean, that's one of the biggest lessons. Make sure you know your numbers. It's to know your numbers in this business is crucial. But make sure that you present the numbers the way they are. A lot of people look at the numbers the way they think, the way they want them to be.
They want them to, yeah.
Need to be to the penny. Need to account for everything, and they need to be real numbers. You don't say things. Don't be conservative and show the real numbers to whoever you want to work with.
Awesome. That's a really good suggestion. Thank you. One of the other areas that I'm fascinated with that you're involved in, and this maybe is I think you've got several years of experience with this, but you're also evolving in this space, is with subsidized housing and helping municipalities bring kind of affordable, high quality, rental apartments to the area. Can you talk to me a little bit? This is a space that I'm not super familiar with, but would love to hear about your journey with regards to, subsidized housing. And just, I think the audience, it's not something we've talked about on this podcast since we started it. So, I'll open the floor to you, but tell us a little bit about those projects and how you got involved there.
Well, subsidized housing is, and most people, the term that most people would know is Section 8. Tenants with Section 8 vouchers. These are usually tenants that the government helps them with their rent. Low-income families, and in some cases the government can pay in full. In other cases, they can pay a certain percentage of their rent, and in a lot of ways, the investors, and that a split on, do I accept Section 8 tenants or do I not? I've seen people say the moment they hear Section 8, they just run away, say, no, I don't want to deal with such tenants. And I think the biggest reason for that is that when you rent an apartment to a Section 8 tenant, somebody from the housing authority would come and make an inspection. So they go through every little detail, and everything needs to be up to code. So I think a lot of people are afraid of that component of dealing with Section 8. For me, I enjoy this part because that kind of keeps you. What's the word for it? You know that everything is in order. When they come, they point out, you need to fix this window screen or this step is loose. He lays it down. I just, I have a list already. He created a list for me. I just give it to I don't do anything myself. I'm not handy. So I give it to my handyman, and he goes by the list and fixes everything. Now I know that my house is up to code. I feel good about it because I pride myself in providing a good housing, good homes for my tenants, and that actually I really enjoy this type, this part of renting to Section 8. Other than that, they're regular people. They're regular families who want a nice home. They want to to be treated nicely, and they're no different than any other tenants.
Yeah, we couldn't agree more. My wife and I talk about this a lot. We don't, frankly, when we got involved in real estate investing, you're right. In the inner circles, it's it's kind of an us and them mentality, and I don't like it. And frankly, I think that we think it's an opportunity. We think that providing, when we're in Waltham and Watertown and west of Boston, and we first thing we did, we reached out to local housing authorities, introduced ourselves, talked about the units we had, talked about the quality renovations that we wanted to do. If I can provide an updated, nice, safe, clean place to live, and a tenant can come in, and I'm going to screen tenants the same way, right? I'm going to, whether they have a housing assistance or not, right? I'm screening my tenants the exact same way. And if I can bring somebody in and they're getting, a subsidy from the local housing authority or federal government, et cetera, as long as they pass my criteria, frankly, that makes me feel better, right? And I just think that there's just too much, there's a lot of people opining on it that I think don't dig into it, and just kind of, it's just, they hear it from some
mindset. I think people have this presumption about this. I'm not sure, I haven't done it long enough. I'm not sure where it came from and how it used to be 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. But on the screening, Todd, just sorry to interrupt you. On the screening part, yeah, we still do our screening, but actually our screening is just a second layer screening, because the housing authority, they have already done the screening on them, and they actually keep a record on this tenant. So for example, if you have somebody that was supposed to pay half of the rent and they did not pay, the housing authority will cut their voucher, and then they're not going to be eligible for a new voucher. And let's say if they were dealing drugs or having loud parties, again, they would find out when they find out about it, they would just cut their voucher, and so there's another layer of protection. But the biggest benefit is at the beginning of the month, on the first of the month, the money's in your bank account. Doesn't matter rain or shine, COVID or not, the money is there. So you have one less thing to worry about it. And it's us as landlords, the toughest thing is just to go and to ask, when you're going to be able to pay the rent. Right. I come from a poor country. I grew up poor. It's one of the hardest things, especially now in the holiday season. We have people that are behind, and it's so hard. It's
a difficult conversation to have. So well, I certainly appreciate you sharing your stance on it. I think we need to talk about. I think in the investment community, I think we frankly need to talk about it more. I think there are, as you pointed out, I think there are clear benefits to landlords who are willing to provide safe accommodations and live in homes, right? Houses and homes for tenants of all spectrums on the income scale. And I think you pair that with staying on top of the inspections, right? Those are things that typically you'd pay a property manager for, right? And you have your housing authority auditor doing the inspections. You have a portion of your rents coming in first of the month from the actual housing authority, which is guaranteed. And so there's a lot of benefits to both the property owner and to your residents. And so I just wish more people would I hope more people will lean into these programs because I think they're mutually beneficial.
Just to get back on the inspection topic, is let's say an inspector comes from the housing authority and they see something that in order for them to rent that you need to fix, and it's something extensive, an extensive repair that you cannot afford to fix right now. You don't have to do it. You can just say, we don't have the funds right now to do this, and then you go to your next tenant that is not with Section 8. So it's not like once you accept an application and then they say, okay, you need to change all these windows, you have to do it. If it's good to do it if you have the funds, but you don't have to. They won't make you do it. So.
Yeah. No, I think that's an important point. So thanks for calling that out. And again, thanks for all you're doing in that space. And I think keep sharing this story at the meetups and whatnot. And I genuinely hope more and more people embrace it. And I think if we all, the more we talk about it, if we can turn the tides of the kind of unfair negative connotations around demographic of tenants, then I think that's good for everybody. So
yeah, and one of the most important thing is you make a positive impact in the community. I really believe that. I mean, there are people in need. You know, there are people that are system abusers. There's no doubt. There's people that are, you know, can work and can go to work, but they just found that way to live for free. I mean, I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna lie to you. There's these people, but if you as the government, if they want to provide for people in need, it's really hard to to provide to everyone, you know, and to see who actually is the abuser of the system and cut them loose. So
yeah. All right, so Todor, one more topic we want to cover before we kind of wind this thing down. You know, you've talked about your journey the last 10 or 15 years in real estate, and I think some of the projects you're working on now, you're actually looking to move into bigger projects. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, a lot of our audience are first-time investors or newer investors. Talk a little bit about how buying that first condo in Chelsea has really powered you into, you know, owning multiple buildings and even looking at bigger size buildings. Like, because I think that's hard for some folks who are just starting out, thinking, I'm only doing a low down payment on my first house hack. How could I ever get to a 5 or a 10 unit building or several buildings? So talk a little bit about the compounding and equity building over your journey.
Yeah. So again, the condo that I bought, you know, the times that obviously had changed. The prices started to rise up. I still own it, although I don't think it's the best investment decision. I probably should have sold it and reinvested in a bigger building. But I have this sentimental attachment to it, and I really love it. So I'm still renting it. I made great money out of it. But I can give you an example. When we started buying multifamily homes, we started with obviously with the conventional loans up to four unit building. So I'll give you an example with a building we bought at the beginning of 2018. It was in South Lawrence. It was 3-family home, regular triple decker, 3 bedrooms each. We bought it for $410,000. I was the first one to show up in the open house, and before the open house was over, we kind of shook hands and we had an agreement. Now, not even 2 years ago, 2 years later, at the beginning of this year. No, actually, we bought this we did buy it in 2018. So the beginning of this year, we sold it. We bought it for $410,000. We sold it for $565,000. So we used this equity that we have gained, and together with the down payment that we initially put in the first building, and we did 1031 exchange. And for those of your audience who don't know what 1031 exchange is, this is when you pretty much when you buy something, and when you buy a house or anything, a house in this case, and you gain some equity, the price has gone up, you're supposed to pay capital gain tax on the equity. But if you reinvest that same money into another building, you defer these taxes. And you can do this with as many. You can go to the next one. Eventually, when you sell the last one, you pay this tax, but at the moment you defer it. So we did 1031 exchange, and without any money out of our pockets, we bought a off-market deal that was consisting 11 residential units, 5 bay garages, and 2 huge barns. So we pretty much, with this, we can put it in 2 years later, you turn a 3 unit into whatever, 15 units, whatever it is, without any money coming out of our pockets. And then maybe 3-4 years from now, if this new property, gets some equity, we can do the same thing. We can sell it and reinvest it. And the best thing is that in the meantime, while we were owning this 3-family, we're making around $1,700 in cash flow a month. So we were making money throughout, sold it, and now I think in the new building, our cash flow is like over 4,000 a month after every expenses. So it's really, it's a powerful tool.
Yeah, that's a great example, and I think it'll be really, I think it's really powerful for folks to understand that as they're building equity in their property, whether they're house hacking it and they're building it themselves, or whether it's a multifamily rental where the residents and tenants are really paying, creating equity for you. You can then use that equity to your advantage to grow your real estate portfolio.
This is Todd, and you know that business very well. This is without being creative in financing, right, or finding this. This is just straightforward. This is every single person can do that. I mean, it's just you buy something, then it goes up in price. You sell it, and you buy a bigger one. It's nothing special to it. It's just easy, and a lot of people are doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks for that. I think that was a good way to end the conversation. I think that was a good summary, and I appreciate you coming on and covering some really important and cool parts of your journey thus far. So I guess we try to end these shows with one recommendation you would have for a new investor. So for somebody that's just looking to start out, buy their first rental property, buy their first house hack, what's one suggestion you would have for them?
I say just do it. Just go ahead. It's as simple as this. Just go ahead and do it. I know you Todd, you're big on reading books, and so am I. It's great to educate yourself. It's great to listen to podcasts, just as what we're doing right now. But I see a lot of people, they go so much into it that they kind of I don't know if it's the right expression, but they know way too much, So it doesn't matter how many books you're going to read. Doing one deal you'll learn a lot more than 10 books and 15 podcasts. Just do one deal, learn from it. If you like it, you might hate it. If you want to be you might not like it and say, well, why? And so at least you're going to stop wasting time reading books and learn about it. Do your numbers, work on your numbers, and analyze deals when it's the right. I mean, there's never a right deal. There's never, this is the best deal. Just do a deal, and just remember what we said at the beginning. It's a forgiving business. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay if people are afraid right now, but if the market crashes tomorrow, if you're renting it and if you have positive cash flow, you want to survive. If your plan is to own it for 3-4 years only and then move on with something else, don't do it. But if you want to hold it for at least in a long term, at least 7, 8, 9 years, it's going to come around, and you'll never regret that you've done it.
Love it, man. Love it. Yeah, I've almost fallen into that trap myself. I think preparation and education is very important, but there are things you just will not learn until you do deals. So love the recommendation. I think that's a phenomenal one for folks that are looking to get started.
I don't know. I learn from books. I still read books. I learn real estate books. I learn from it. But I think even to the day, we've made so many, we've bought so many properties, and I'm not talking about clients. I'm just, for myself. I learn actually is one thing every single time we do a deal. And I say, wow, I wish I knew this before.
Love it.
Just do it. Go out there and do it.
Thanks, Todor. So for folks that want to get in touch with you, either just as fellow investors that want to touch base with you, or potentially as clients who want your help buying their first property or selling something, where can they get in touch with you? How can they follow you?
Well, I'm not big on social media. I mean, I have it I don't advertise myself that much, but yeah, on social media is a good way. Todor Ialamov is my name. You can find me there, and send me a message. We can connect and talk about real estate. Yeah, I think that's the best way to find about me.
Cool. And yeah, and I'll if there's any links or names you want me to include, emails, whatever, I'll get those from you, and I'll put them in the show notes so people have them.
Yeah, perfect.
So cool. Todor, thanks for coming on, man. It's always great to talk to you, and I look forward to talking to you again in the not too far future.
You too, Todd. It's great that you're doing these things. It's awesome, and you guys keep on doing the great work you're doing.
Thanks, man. Happy holidays and happy New Year.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.